Well, hello, everyone. I'm Tom Roberts, the Director of Vendor Programs for the PSNI Global Alliance. Welcome to our webinar with our global vendor partner, Williams AV. And once again, it's my pleasure to introduce Nancy Blanchard, Consultant Liaison and the Williams AV Program Director for the PSNI program, for an overview of how to overcome language barriers with artificial intelligence. As usual, the webinar is being recorded and a link will be provided to you as soon as it's made available. All attendees will be in the listen-only mode, and we made time at the end of the session for Q&A, so we encourage you to ask questions. Now let me introduce Nancy Blanchard. Welcome, Nancy.
Hi, thanks, Tom. I'm looking forward to this webinar today. So today what we're going to do is talk about AI, machine learning. Artificial intelligence, which is also referred to as AI in the AV industry, has been a slow and winding road when compared to the high-speed world of consumer electronics. AI has exploded just about everywhere, from Siri to Alexa, controlling your home electronics, ordering groceries to other items. One can now control just about everything in the house. And the real benefit and power of AI is helping to improve the end user experience, the ability to communicate just about anywhere in the world. AI will have a role in shaping the future of simultaneous interpretation, just as AI will do for many professions. However, with AI, it will greatly augment our ability to translate spoken language simultaneously, accurately, and to overcome language barriers. It seems in every industry right now is that we're talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, and other technologies replacing humans in the workplace. However, despite all the hype, machine learning will never be enough to replace human translation or interpreters. Language understanding is a critical component of technology, and it sounds simple and simple enough. However, it's complex. There are rules, exceptions to exceptions, multiple languages, evolving language. So slang is different in multiple languages, as well as contextual, being multiple meanings. You have idioms, we have cultural references. For example, two dialects of French have different accents and intonations. But with Google is as Google Cloud becomes better over time from one language to another, language translation has jumped in translation quality, making translation more natural. So if we look at the language services industry, is that globalization is real. And as organizations around the world continue transaction across borders, making their products and their services available in more languages, the translation industry market continues to increase in size. Let's look at 2018, $46.52 billion US. And it's predicted, of which we're in now, 2021, that it will continue to grow and increase to $56.18 billion in US. Furthermore, it's projected to reach $70 billion by 2023. There's lots of opportunity. Now, before the benefits of AI translation, you would have a person at the podium and an interpreter, another person, who would be listening and broadcasting using some means of an assistive listening device. And that's with Williams AV for decades, is that we've provided equipment for interpreters. We have our digital RF, known as DigiWave, as well as our interpreter control console. So Williams AV supports human interpreters. Nothing can replace the real value of human interpretation regarding tones and nuances, Moreover, body language, cultural gestures, and accents are still not part of the process, while they play a crucial role in human communication. AI is an alternative. AI translators are programmed to translate text without any real context. They don't understand the emotional and cultural impact of language. Sarcasm and irony are often lost. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about our product called Convey Video, but this is to give you an example. If we look at real-time translation over live video, you have the speaker speaking into a microphone connected via USB to our Convey Video box. That audio is then translated in the Google AI Cloud to text and presented to an HDMI output, being a display. Real-time translation for presentations. With the process of simultaneous interpretation and continuous speech, such as a presentation or a lecture, Convey Video can support video text overlay on any HDMI video source. The downstream chroma key can be configured to show captioning, either on the lower third of the screen, and then up, down, across with text scrolling for live video broadcast applications. You can modify the font sizes, the font colors, the background colors, and it's all available whether you want translucent, transparent, opaque for the individual end user requirements. So the million-dollar question is, why did Williams AV build an AI-based translation system? For decades, we have provided wireless audio solutions such as digital RF, analog RF, analog IR, Wi-Fi, and induction loop systems. Furthermore, we have a video product known as Annotation Pro, Annotation Pro Plus, which is a 4K high broadcast annotation system for higher ed, for judicial, for medical. And so it allows you to be able to annotate high quality images. We set out to address the challenges of interpretation's traditional approach. We listened to what tools would be beneficial and productive in a variety of applications and markets. The world is becoming smaller. Global companies are closely working together, sharing resources and information. And PSNI affiliates, such as yourself, are a great example of collaboration and coming together. And that's what AI is. AI is a communication tool. Not only a benefit to the hard of hearing, but primarily to help people communicate in different languages. In 2020, we became a Google developer. Last August, introduced our real-time open captioning product called Caption Assist. And in 2021, which just happened, April the 15th, we launched our next AI-based simultaneous and continuous translation product with real-time open captioning called Convey Video. So the next chapter in assistive listening is assistive understanding, all feeling inclusion. Convey Video is based on the idea of empowering people with the ability to communicate anywhere in the world without the boundaries of language. So we are taking the next level with Convey Video, designed to allow more people to understand what is being said, but more importantly, make sure that everyone feels included. So it helps the non-native speaker and those overcoming hearing loss be able to see words on the screen, not only to hear, but to see, which helps them to retain information. Translation and open captioning on the video screen has long been a dream of the assistive listening community. in making facilities more accessible to those with hearing impairments, and even to those who can't hear at all. Convey Video's native speech-to-text AI platform allows captioning to be translated or left in the native language of the presenter. Machine learning may be viable when on-site or remote interpreting is not economically viable or not readily available. So in some countries, they have several languages and dialects, and such diversity makes them a better society. So why not use AI to seamlessly breach the language barrier? So we have addressed the assistive listening market, and now we're addressing new challenges. The assistive understanding market, as well as the assistive visual for deaf and hard of hearing. Listening is more than just hearing someone, it's understanding them as well. If we look at the hard of hearing statistics, according to WHO, some estimates go as high as 10% of the world population having some hearing loss. Furthermore, 43% of adults 65 and older have disabling hearing loss. Sometimes hearing just isn't about hearing loss. It could be bad sound, poor room acoustics, a soft-spoken presenter, or the speaker has an accent, or there's technical terms used. Could be lots of background noise. We all have been in the ballrooms and convention centers and other areas where even though the doors are closed, you're still hearing things going on out in the hallway, or there's construction and it can be distracting. And bad video conference audio. So there's several benefits of AI translation. For visual learners, it helps students and the audience better understand and focus on a presentation, a lecture, could be a sermon. Secondly, learning a new language. It helps non-native speakers fully understand key concepts, especially with technical subjects. Thirdly, it's an alternative solution for assistive listening needs. It caters to people in the deaf community and those hard of hearing. And finally, another benefit is that it aids students with learning disabilities, trouble processing speech and auditory components in media who have an IEP. And I can relate to this because my son, who's in high school, has an IEP. So there's accommodations, sitting close to the front, having time to finish a test, or having a longer time to finish homework. But something such as this, as Convey Video, helps them to retain information. So let me introduce to you Convey Video. Here is the hardware. It's a 1RU. On the left, you have your HDMI in for a source such as a laptop, a display, HDMI out. Then we have COM1 and COM2. That's for your third-party control with ASCII-Net, Telnet commands. It could be AMX, Crestron, Extron. There's a wide variety of different control systems now out on the market. Internet is that you need a hardwired LAN connection for Google Cloud. There is no Wi-Fi router built in it. And then we have 5 USB 3.0 ports, and those would be for mic, keyboard, mouse, but it's audio USB input for a mic. It's digital with the neural engine, and it's faster. So what we do is we provide you with a female XLR adapter to a USB-A analog to digital cable that's included. Control options, keyboard and mouse, access the user interface for control. I'd also like to just mention that we do provide a mouse with the unit when shipped. You also can use a touch screen, and I mentioned third-party control. This just gives you an idea of one of our connection guides to see how all the devices connect with the Convey Video box. USB microphone or a USB output from a mixer or a DSP, mouse input through USB, a USB thumb drive for archiving, You might have a camera that's connected HDMI in, and of course, HDMI out to a monitor. Convey Video is powered by Google's AI, which is up to 94% accurate depending upon the language combination and content. The Google Cloud becomes better over time with translations that improve. And with the Google Library in the cloud, it's making global decisions based on probabilities. So it will decipher context from phrasing and correct. For example, the color red versus I read a book. And just to let you know, we have successfully tested with a medical journal containing highly technical industry-specific terms, and it worked with deciphering. Supported languages. Currently, it supports 27 languages and speech input in 70+ dialects. This sort of gives you an idea from some of the languages that are on here. But as Google introduces and supports more languages, the same with our ability with our Convey Video product. What are some of the features? It's an AI-based automated translation implemented for a professional AV environment. And I'd like to stress, because I've had this asked, this is different from your app on your phone. This is continuous and simultaneous translation. There's no limit to how long you use it. A professor could have a lecture for 60 minutes and it will capture that full 60 minutes. With the phone app is that it's known to be short phrases. I believe it's 12 or to 17 seconds. It's not continuous speech. So there's two different types of captioning. You have closed captions, which is what the viewer can control by turning on and off, such as on your TV. And then real-time open caption is that it's text overlaid over video presentation as the speaker is speaking. For archiving is that the captures in the recordings do not contain audio. It will capture any transmitted video and the text of the captions and store in a text file on a USB storage device. Data privacy. This is a very important one, and it's always brought up in discussion. Williams AV does not keep info by the Google Cloud. Information between the cloud and Convey Video is encrypted. So archived data is stored locally on a USB device only. I included here 2 links, and I'm happy to email them to you if you'd like. But the Google statement from the Cloud Translation API FAQs states, Google does not use any of your content for any purpose except to provide you with the Cloud Translation API service. So I am now going to hand this over to our Eden Prairie, Minnesota office, because I'm based here in San Jose, California. And Anthony is going to take you through and actually show you how Convey Video works. Take it away there, Anthony.
Perfect. So what you guys are looking at here is the mini menu, what we like to call the mini menu for setting up languages. The very top is speaker. Bottom of that is the translator. You can select these options to be able to select what output language you want to translate to on our system. So for example, right now, I'm just going to select English as my main spoken language, and I want to have a translation of Spanish. I want to have my video source to be HDMI, which is my desktop computer. Of course, for mic volume, I can adjust the gain on my microphone itself. Once that is done, I come over to the green button here in the bottom right-hand corner, and I hit start. When I hit start, you'll see a message that says start translating. That means that now the engine is active and it's ready to take a speech input in order to begin translation. And as you can see, it happens within milliseconds as far as being able to take the spoken language and translate it. Now, for example, I would like to be able to try a different language. Well, it's a very easy change. All you have to do is take the mouse itself or tap on the screen if you're using a touchscreen monitor for control. Hit stop here at the bottom right-hand corner. It'll stop translating. Our little menu will come up again. You'll hit translator and select the next language that you would like to be able to demonstrate. So for example, I'll choose, let's go to German. Okay. Now, but for this presentation, I'd like to record. Right here at the bottom left-hand corner is a record button. If I had a USB thumb drive plugged into the system, I would hit record. Once I hit record, the system itself would then begin recording. Then I will hit start. That'll start my translation again. I will see a message pop up on the screen that says starting translation. And then the system is then engaged to be able to take in the spoken language and then begin instant translation. So this is pretty much our convey system. Shall we show them a third language?
So a quick question came in. When you talk about archiving, what is the result of that? Do you have audio, text, video? What do you get as part of the archiving?
So currently at the moment, what we end up doing is we save two separate text files. One for the spoken language, so it captures everything that you see at the above text in a TXT file, and it'll capture everything at the bottom third in a TXT file, which is your result. Then what we do is we also record the video in an MP4 format.
Right, so you'd have whatever is captured on the screen as well
Correct.
as the translations themselves. A question came up about, do you have to display the captioning and the translation? Could you do just the translation?
No, you can do just the translation. So once we go into the main menus here and begin to show you how to actually set up the system and configure it to what you need, there are options to turn on and off the spoken text or the translated text. And there's also control for moving it around the screen.
Good, maybe we can spend just a couple of minutes and look at
Perfect.
some of those display settings to give people a flavor for how easy it is to configure where the text appears, whether the text color and so on.
Okay, perfect. So let me stop the translation here. Once that is ended, if you click here at the bottom of the screen, you see how that turned blue. It'll open up our main menu. At the very top of our main menu is a caption menu. This is your setup for the captioning that is being displayed on the screen. Auto off is an option so that if you do walk away from the system and you forget to hit stop, the system will then stop engaging with the neural engine and auto shut off the script after 5, 10, or 15 minutes. The same thing goes for maximum lines. Here you can display 1 line of translated text, 2 lines, or 3 lines. And this option right here is what Tony's question here is whether or not you want to show the displayed speaker text or show the translated text on the screen. If you go into language itself, here you can manually set the language just like you can in the menu. You can go through our entire list. Remember, there are 72 dialects here that we are compatible with. So you can go through this list and set it up in this menu instead. Same goes with the translated text.
And those designations after each language are for the dialects, and those are all spelled out in the documentation for the product.
Correct.
But those are standard designations among interpreters for
Yes.
those different dialects.
Correct. If we go into the font menu here, you can see size. This is the size of the text that will be displayed on the screen, 24, 32, and 40. We kept a small color range, which is white, black, or yellow. This is typical in broadcast, so we try to stick to something that is being used nowadays for presentations. Text positioning. Here you can set your text position to top or bottom, or you can set up the alignment of the text to left, oriented, center, or right.
So depending on what your video source is or how you've formatted your presentation, you can move the captioning or translation
Correct.
or both to where you want those to be on the screen.
Yes,
Great.
correct. Now, in this text background, this is basically the box that you saw behind the current translation, which I have it set to white. Here you can go into the transparency. You can have no box, you can have a box at half of opacity, or you can have a full box selection here as opaque. Same thing goes with color. We stuck with, once again, a broadcast more oriented color palette, black, white, or blue for your background. And the last but not least, microphone volume here. If you open up this menu here, you can see that there's a small little setting here where you can take this button and set your audio level for how you would like your sensitivity of the mic. So if you feel like when you're demoing this or using this out in the field and the system is not capturing everything as accurate as it should be, go ahead, go into the microphone input gain volume section and up the gain just a bit and see if your results are better.
Yeah, just like anything else, microphones vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, and
Correct.
setting that properly will only improve the results for
Yes.
the translation and caption.
Correct.
Good. So that should give you a quick idea for how easy it is to manage things from this main menu, how you can adjust the display settings for the system and even do that on the fly as needed. One question that we had was, what if I want to do translation into multiple languages?
If you want to do translation into multiple languages, right now, currently, you will need multiple boxes.
So one box per language.
One box per language.
The input language would be the same, but the output or
Correct.
the translated text that you chose from the main menu would be a different HDMI out translated into a different language.
Yes, you
Excellent.
are correct.
Excellent. So hopefully that gives you a feel for the demo. Anthony, thank you for that. And we'll take some questions a little later on, but for now, we'll kick it back over to Nancy to explain a little bit more about how the process works to get set up and running with a Convey video.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're going to stop right now and it's question time. We'd like to get your input, feedback. So if you can please enter your responses, and then Haley, if you can read them back to us, what markets or applications do you think would benefit from this? So if you can take some time, enter that in.
You can go ahead and enter that right into the question box. All right, guys, so far I see justice. Courtrooms, churches, government, assisted living communities, government, school, classrooms using hybrid learning pedigree. I don't know what that is.
That's great, Haley. That gives us a good sense because interpretation happens in so many different places. We just wanted to get some initial feedback as you understand what the system is capable of. It'll help us maybe focus our efforts on the places you think there would benefit the most from a system like this. So thank you for the quick feedback there.
I'd really like to add one more though, guys, because I think it's important, and that is whatever market Nancy tells us to.
Yes, that's right. And I do have some interesting ones that'll probably get the wheels going in some people's minds. Where is Convey video a good fit? Adding or expanding multi-language capability to spaces and meetings where having a live interpreter is not practical or economical. So I've listed some markets and applications here. Higher education, enhancing comprehension. Some people have already mentioned translation and recording in judicial, medical, law enforcement, as well as improving global business communications effectiveness. So I've shown you the hardware side of our box. Now let's talk about the software. There's a monthly billing portal. After you purchase a Convey video, you visit portal.williamsav.com. The username is your email address with a self-selected password. There's the term and conditions, input your basic contact information, and securely enter a credit card for the monthly charge. Now, with Manage My Devices, this is where you can link a new device with your account using the Add Device button. There's an activation code, a license key that is provided with your product that is required. It's found on the unit as well as on the startup screen. Next, there is the tiers. So whether it be 32, 96, or 160 hours, I am going to cover that in the next slides. Current usage, this is the usage percentage. It will turn red when you've gone over your tier hours. But if you reach 90%, there is an email notification to let you know that you're almost reached your hours. Administration, hold can be used to stop the unit from translating, for example, so that you're not adding on hourly costs. Credit card, different units can be assigned to different credit cards. Activation date, that determines your billing cycle. Last invoice, so this is where you can view previous invoices. And then for action, you can edit your device details. So if you need to end or halt the subscription. I have been asked, can you share time? No, you cannot. You have to choose a tier for each device. The billing available is to a fixed cost. It's in US dollars, euros, British pounds, Canadian, Australian, and Japan. There's multiple tiers available, and the tiers are based for using the software. As I mentioned, 32, 96, or 160 hours per month. The lower the price per hour is for committing to a higher number of hours. For example, 160 hours will be lower per hour versus selecting the 32 hours per month tier. Full number of hours, if I chose 96, that's what I would be charged each month. There are no rollover minutes. It's not like your cell plan. The device keeps running after the included number of hours is reached, but you do receive a warning email prior to notify you of your usage. If a device is not used at all during a month, the monthly fee will still be charged. And finally, unused hours are forfeited at the end of each billing period. So in terms of how it works with your credit card is that you securely enter your credit card info for that monthly charge. It is done through a third party, Stripe's payment. A payment processing plan, think of PayPal, similar to PayPal. It's secure, it's stable, and your credit card information is never sent to our server. They handle the back end. So you can think of it as a boutique store. There's a credit card reader machine. All the credit card information is held centrally at Stripe. So let's look a little bit more and give you an idea of how this will work.
Quick comment, Nancy. The question came in. The tier 32, 96, and 160 seemed a little random to a few folks. And really, what that corresponds to is how many days a week you think you would use the system, right? We really want this to be where you're paying only for how much you're using the system. So if you think 8 hours in a given day, if you use that four days a month or 1 day a week in a typical month, that would be 32 hours. So the tier 32 really corresponds to using the system about 1 day a week for 8 hours. Tier 96 is using the system about 3 days a week for 8 hours per day. And the tier 160 is really, hey, I'm using this 5 days a week for 8 hours a day, really using it quite heavily. So that's where the tier 32, 96, and 160 came from, is really corresponding to using the system 1 day a week, 3 days a week, or 5 days a week.
Thanks, Tony.
You bet.
So as explained, yeah, the usage beyond the tier allowance is charged at that hourly rate that's associated with your chosen billing tier. So if I choose 96 and I've used my full 96, then it'll be $13.99 US per hour. Overage charges, they are added to next month's bill. And then let's say I chose 32, but I'm discovering that I need actually more hours. I can switch and choose 96, but you won't see that. It'll take effect in the next billing cycle. The activation date determines the billing period. So if I've activated my device on the 15th of the month, the billing period will be the 15th of one month to the 14th of the following month on a consistent basis. And there's certain use cases where you might require more hours than other uses. For instance, a courtroom may see that they are using it daily, while with a house of worship, they're seeing that they're using it weekly. So convey video is tied into our other product, Caption Assist. It's the same product platform using the same neural engine. I gave you the pricing for the software, but for Convey Video, the actual box is that it's $4,995 US. Caption Assist is $3,995 US. With our products, you take the native language and you translate that language into written text displayed as subtitles. With Caption Assist, it's real-time open caption. So it's one language in, same language out. Convey Video, translation and real-time open caption. One language in, as Anthony showed you, another language out. Convey Video will not read the text on screen to the user. It only displays the translated text. So that's where the comparison, as I mentioned, of Anthony showing you, is that you choose, it could be English to German or to one of the other 26 languages. Whereas Caption Assist is, if you don't need a different language translation, then Caption Assist offers that real-time open caption only. What are some opportunities? If you look at, on average, closed captioning services generally cost about $150 to $200 US per hour and require expensive hardware. So an additional DSP and video encoders, which are extra. Interpreters range from $250 to $300 US per hour. $90 per hour in courts with a remote telephone on call, whether the services are used or not. The stenographer, $250 to $280 per hour. What Caption Assist and Convey Video provide is an affordable, accurate, reliable solution. It's available 24/7. If you can't find an interpreter at 6 p.m. who speaks Farsi, you have a permanent solution for last-minute requests, which tend to be costly. Also, how about budgetary considerations? If you are holding corporate meetings or events, and those are taking place several times a week or month, that might also add up. But instead, a company has a unit that's ready for automated interpretation. Some opportunities. Well, it required by the ADA is that most colleges and universities must provide captioning in lectures. Convey Video and Caption Assist are an alternative to captioning services that helps meet the reasonable accommodation, which is part of Section 706. And with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, it requires captioning on educational video that's available not only to students, but to the public as well. And that is to ensure that there's effective communication for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. Markets and applications. For higher ed, you see language visual for English learners. But how about for ceremonies, commencements? You have parents that are flying in from all over the world. Other types of applications might be for citizenship, conferences, or speeches. For House of Worship is you're listening to the hymns, but you also want to see them visually. And recently, our product was used for live broadcast, and it was for a beauty pageant. Now, if we get into the distance learning and the webinars and corporate presentations via video, by running through a third-party product such as Vadio has an AV Bridge, or there's also Blackmagic, which is a design web presenter, you can take that HDMI input and enable a user to take the video stream with the text overlay and feed it into a video conference so that on the far end, you're seeing the captioning too. For support, we have a team called TechBlue. Please lean on us. It's free support for PSNI affiliates. so that it helps you to choose the right technology and design into a specific venue. And our services range from design services, spec development, product and product install training, to coverage modeling. On our website, there is a design request form you fill out and then submit that. You can email techblue@williamsav.com with any questions or requests for design support. In addition, you can also email info@williamsav.com, myself, nancyb@williamsav.com. So Williams AV, we're working on ways to help people not only hear, but see and engage with one another. If you're a consultant attending today, there is a domestic as well as an international consultant portal at our website, williamsav.com. At the top of the page, you'll select My Williams, register to log in to access. And I've made it real simple for you because I don't want you going through several menus, but for your projects, for your designs, you'll find there everything from manuals to consultant specs, white papers, training, events, etc. This I included, I just wanted to give you an idea of resources and tools available for you, specifically with Convey and Caption Assist. So there is a blog and it discusses captioning versus translation. So it might be informational for you. There is also a language list to view all of the languages as well as the dialects. There's spec sheets, the user manual, quick start guide. And just to thank you, Williams AV is proud to be a global sponsor of PSNI. We thank you for your business and look forward to working with you on future products and designs. Please reach out to us. And I'm now going to hand it over to Haley so that we can address any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Really just a great product, great presentation. There are a ton of questions here, so we can get that started. First off, can you save presets for various configurations that can be recalled by a third-party control system?
So not today, but great suggestion. One of the reasons that Anthony and I are both here is to hear these kind of suggestions. So today there are not known presets. There are, you want to take it different?
From the third-party controller itself, yes, you can set up presets. So you would basically set a string of commands from one button that would be programmable on the actual controller itself. That button then can go ahead and pre-configure our system at boot up.
So we don't handle the preset, but the third-party controller.
The third-party controller can do that.
Great, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Does the Williams AV logo have to appear on the user's screen during the application?
No, not at all. You were just seeing it over our desktop was what was being used. The desktop on our laptop was what was being used as the video source.
Correct.
So the only thing that would be there is whatever your video source is. The Williams AV logo is not present throughout all of that.
Correct.
Can you guys give a recap as to how many languages this supports?
Sure. So there are 27 different languages, but within those 27 languages, there are 70 or more dialects, and those are being updated. And as Nancy mentioned earlier in the presentation, as a Google development partner, we're working with them, and there's new languages being added regularly. So it is currently 27 languages. You can find a list of those on our website, as well as the various dialects.
Fantastic, thank you. You guys had mentioned multiple times about saved files as TXT files, text and video. Is there an audio only recording included as well?
You want to take that one?
Not currently. Currently in this software release, there is not a option for you to record the audio, but in the next generation and the next release that we have for an update, that will be added and supported.
So to be clear, today there is a TXT file with the actual text that is captured, and then there is an MP4 file that is the recorded video with captions or translated text overlaid onto that video. And we, as Anthony described, we are looking at adding the audio component to that in a future release.
And by the way, all updates are free.
Yep. So as we continue to enhance the system and add new languages, that just the box will continue to grow with you. If there's updates to how our operating system works, those are easily applied in the background menus that Anthony showed you by simply downloading the firmware update from our website onto a USB drive, connecting that into the back of the box and hitting update within our menu system.
Free is always a good number. Is the system efficiency the same for different languages? For example, English to Spanish versus English to Vietnamese?
Yeah, there's some variability there. You want to talk about that?
They're pretty much all the same. There's really no issues with the matrix of languages that you select. They all pretty much give you the same result. The system is not based on text per text translation, but instead it's based on phrase-based translation, which it tries to give human-like responses in the other language. So you should see the same result in any language that you decide to choose from, whether that be Spanish to German or German to Spanish and so on. Does that sort of answer the question?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Next up, is there a monthly invoice for each device?
Yes, so you can set up each device. You get to choose any one of the tiers that Nancy described. So if you have it in one particular area of a facility and it's being used every day of the week, but in another area it's only used once in a while, you get to pick the tier that applies per box. You can assign that, and that can even be billed to the same credit card or a different credit card. So we really only want you to be paying for the translation service based on your usage. So that's why we offer these different tiers. But yes, each box can have a different tier, and you're paying only for what you use.
And Tony, I think you just kind of answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are you billed if you're just using the system as closed captions, no additional language translation?
Correct. Yeah. So whether we're captioning it from the same language that's being input into the box, or we're translating it, we're still using that neural engine from Google, and that's really how they're compensated for all of this. Is as you see, the costs are very affordable compared to using a human in the mix here. Again, we've had a long history in interpretation, and we see this as an alternative for when a human interpreter is not available. But yes, captioning still requires the use of the Google engine to bring back and put text on the screen, so it is billed at the same rate. If all you're looking for is something that does captioning without the translation, you can save a little bit of money using the Caption Assist product that Nancy described as part of this family of offerings.
Fantastic. If you purchase multiple devices, do you need multiple monthly accounts, or are all hours used applied to your tier that you select?
Nope. So if you have multiple boxes, each box has its own tier and its own billing cycle. If you could activate them all at the same time so that they're on the same billing cycle, but each one is independent. It's not when you select a tier, it's not a shared number of hours between boxes. What we found through our market research with various interpretation companies and those who gave us feedback during the development process is when a pool of hours gets shared, it's much harder to control whether or not we're staying within certain budget guidelines. So that's why we aligned each box to have its own tier.
Thank you. Do both Caption Assist and Convey Video have the subscription costs, or does this just apply to Convey Video?
So Convey Video has this monthly billing cost. Right now, Caption Assist has a little different model where you're using your phone to make a purchase of time in 4 or 8 hour increments to add time to the box. So for example, if I was going to be using it all week, I could go and say I want to buy 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, and that will load a certain amount of time onto the box for use. That's how we started with the Caption Assist program, but what we expect is based on feedback from our users, the Caption Assist box over time will probably migrate more to this monthly billing cycle because it's just a more affordable way to do it, and it is much more predictable as you try to budget the expense associated with either captioning or translation.
Thank you. Kind of a use case question for you guys. So to utilize this, would you always be needing to mirror the event on a digital device or screen so that basically meaning I would always need to film and stream my courtroom proceedings, worship, or class to a screen? Would that mean that they would need an additional AV team and camera for any on-site meeting? For remote meetings, obviously not an issue, but for once we get back to the good old-fashioned on-site meetings, does this mean that they would need to mirror that digital media?
So most places have already some sort of AV equipment installed. So I would imagine that they would just feed us an HDMI input, and then we would take our HDMI output and send that to a projector. And then that would display the captions over the desired video source. If you want to get more complex than that, then I would imagine you would add a distribution amplifier for your HDMI output, and then you can send it out to multiple displays. But we are a professional AV piece of equipment that can be installed in an already existing AV space.
Yeah, I think I'd piggyback onto that to say you watched us think about that question for a little bit. That is the way that most of our customers are using it, is we have some kind of a video source coming in, whether that's a presentation, a camera, or something else, and then we overlay the text on top of it. But that's not how everybody uses it. One of the options that we probably didn't show you is when you go to select your video source, you have the options for overlaying on top of an HDMI source, on top of a USB source, or simply putting text over black. So for some of our broadcast customers or those who don't want to worry about a video source, they can simply get the text translations or captions over a black screen and put those up on a monitor, and you don't have to worry about passing through a video source.
Thank you, guys. We have time for a few more. Can it work two-way for Q&A formats?
Two-way for Q&A formats.
I think it would be like,
in order for you to do something like that, you would need 2 boxes, and each box would have to have its own dedicated microphone and its own dedicated language, and of course a monitor for you to be able to do a simultaneous translation.
We've had that request for both two-way, opposite ends of a conference call, even at a service window, right, where the people speak different languages. So if you're trying to translate in each direction from one side to the other, in order to do that both ways, it would require 2 boxes, or one on either end of that conversation.
Thank you. Can we buy a month at a time the fees to use Google Cloud, or do you have to buy a year at a time?
No, you don't have to buy a year at a time. So the billing happens monthly. And so if you said we're not going to use it for the next 3 months, you could simply go in and remove that box, or remove the credit card as associated with that box from that portal that Nancy showed you some screens on earlier. So you simply go in and remove the box if you're not going to be using it for some period of time. You don't have to pay a annual amount. We actually don't. It only bills monthly at this point.
Okay, any future developments for visually impaired listeners that require translation?
Yeah, so the one that I think A3 mentioned before, we're looking at that. Of course, we are a company that our foundation was based on accessibility, primarily around hearing assistance, and we're always looking at ways to visually improve things. So would love to hear your ideas and suggestions on what you'd like to see in the product there. The one that comes to mind instantly for me is something we're considering in a future release. Would again like to get your input, but not only when we return the translated or the captioned text would we put that on the screen, but also have it spoken back to the user. So that's something we're considering, and need to make sure that is not just a computer generated voice, but natural speech, and something that is on our radar, and that would certainly help someone who is visually impaired.
Thanks, Tony. Can it work with web conferencing platforms like Teams or Zoom?
Yes, yep, we talked about that very briefly and we moved on. So to recap a little bit, the output of our box is an HDMI output, and that HDMI output could be fed into anything that you want. So there's a number of products on the market, from Vadio, from Blackmagic. There's a number of things that can literally take that HDMI output coming from the Convey video, convert it into a USB source that really acts as a webcam and can be ingested into any video conferencing platform, whether that's Zoom, Teams, Google Meets, GoToMeeting, WebEx, any of those. But it would require, at this point,
Correct.
Convey doesn't do that natively. You would take another device to take the HDMI output and ingest it into the video conference platform.
Most people know them as AV bridges.
We'll ask two more quick. Will future versions of this box be available with Hdbaset inputs or outputs?
No, not currently. That has not been a request. It's actually the first time I've heard that.
But we'll add it to the
we'll
list.
add it, correct.
Yeah,
We'll
so
add it to the list.
one of the things we always love about doing these sessions is we get new ideas and we add them to the list. And the more that idea comes up, the cream rises to the top. And that's really what drives our development efforts.
Absolutely. And just one last question here. Does it work with a speaker located remotely?
It can. We just have to have that. We just need to have that audio source fed into the box. So wherever that person is remotely, we need to make sure we get a clean audio stream from them to the far end, wherever the Convey video box lives, so we can get it in through that USB input. So we've done that. If anybody attended Nancy's captioning session a couple months ago, Nancy's audio was being brought into our facility here, our corporate headquarters in Minneapolis, and all the captioning was being done here and shared out through our Zoom session. So absolutely can be done.
Thank you guys so much. There are a few more questions, but we're going to send them directly to the Williams team so that they can directly answer those with you. So back over to you, Tommy.
Great. Thanks for all the questions.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we can always tell how successful a webinar is by the number of questions we get. And I think it's also an opportunity for product development beyond the scope of where we are today. And again, we appreciate everybody's participation in that. Nancy, Anthony, and Tony, guys, we can't thank you enough. We really do appreciate our relationship with you guys worldwide. Williams AV has been a tremendous supporter of our certified service providers. And again, we can't thank you enough for that. For our general audience, all of the products available through Williams AV can be purchased and supported through our network around the world. All of our certified service providers can be found on the PSNI website at psni.org. And with that, I want to remind you that next Wednesday, April 28th at 10 a.m. Central Time in the U.S., a program will be presented by Kramer Electronics. It'll be all about hybrid educational solutions. With that, due to time, on behalf of the PSNI Global Alliance, thank you, all of you, for being with us today. This concludes our webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.